Good afternoon. Let's have some coffee. A long time ago, I made a video called How to Pull an Earl. And it was essentially just like seeing something along the road. And I'm like, oh, I'm interested in that. I want to have that. Actually, one of the best rain jackets I've ever owned, I found in the street. Here's another thing that I do. I notice things. I notice patterns. And one of the things I notice is other people don't notice patterns. And I'll say, do you ever notice this happens constantly? And they'll say, that's never ever happened to me. Like a bunch of different people have said that. That has never ever happened to me. And this is something that happens all day, every day. And so I'll say, do me a favor, just over the next 15 minutes, say, just see if it happens once. And they come back within 5 minutes and they're like, well, it's already happened 4 times. I'm like, yeah, it happens to you all day, every day. But for whatever reason, I think I know the reason. I think that we get good enough at something, almost always we get good enough at something to tune it out, to zone out. Like we get just good enough at driving to where we can just kind of sit back, like fiddle with the radio and, look at the cars that are for sale over there in that lot and, think about what you're going to do this weekend. You don't want to be a good driver. You want to be just good enough to zone out. And I think people do that at work a lot. I think they do it at home a lot. I think people just do that their whole life. And so I keep track of stuff. And sometimes I surprise the fuck out of myself in that it's way worse than I think. Like one of the things I remember was keeping track of how much my boss interacted with me. And I thought it was an awful lot. And when I averaged it out, it was once every 7 minutes. All day. Once every 7 minutes. I mean, it wasn't once every 7 minutes, but sometimes it was more than once for 7 minutes, and then maybe 15 minutes not seeing him, that kind of thing. But that is a lot. That was more than I expected. So today I had it in my mind. Oh, I know the other thing. There's something kind of goofy. You would think that it would be hard to do and rare, and except I started noticing that it wasn't rare, it was common. And then so I started keeping track of this thing, and I wrote down what was happening on a sheet of paper and put it down on a desk. And when I went to go add the number, other people had seen the behavior and had done their own check marks. So there was like a lot. There was like 100 check marks for this behavior. And I'm like, hey, this is my pad to keep track of crazy behavior. But that was another example, though, of there's something weird happening. And it turns out it's way more common than even I realize. So even I mean, because like if it, like you just kind of like you switch into a routine. Someone's like, hey, well this, lever A doesn't activate button B, and you're like, oh well, you have to hit the switch, and then you hit the lever A, and then you hit button B. You just kind of say it, kind of like when someone says, how you doing today? You're like, fine, thanks, how are you? And you don't know how many times you've said fine, thanks, how are you that day. So you're surprised when it turns out to be like 100. So I have another idea of something I want to keep track of today. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it, because I think the number is going to be way larger than I expect. So I was like, at one point in time, I taped like a piece of paper, like 2 rubber bands and a piece of paper around my forearm, and then I kept a pen in my pocket, and I would just do a mark. But I can't do that in this situation, so see how it goes. sometimes there's things that we've seen our whole lives and not noticed. Like, for instance, someone said, how many mailboxes, like the big blue post office mailboxes that are bolted to corners, how many do you see a day? And I listed how many I see a day, and he's like, oh, I would think most people don't even see them as they drive through traffic. And then so I told him, like, did you know they're in front of every single fire station? And he didn't know that. So he thought he was like this level of awareness. And he was surprised that I was at the same level of awareness, except for I had more level of awareness to where these things are located and why. But every once in a while, it's either the reverse, something that I've never noticed, and then once you notice it, I'll give you an example. I had a relative that suffered from alcoholism, and he said alcohol is everywhere. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? He's like, everywhere you go, you see references, either see alcohol or you see references to alcohol. You see alcohol like on trucks, on buildings, on signs. And I started driving down the street, and sure enough, there are alcohol signs everywhere. You see them on trucks and billboards and neon light signs, and on restaurants, bars, stores, everywhere. People even collect them, put them in their houses. Oh, but there's one thing that happens, and there's one thing that you could know, and that you see it. You've seen it your whole life, and it's kind of what got me thinking about this. I'm like, everyone's like, how do I learn this? And I'm like, you realize you see it all the time, right? This thing you want to learn, you actually see it. And they're like, where? I'm like, right there. They go, oh, I've never seen that before. It's been right in front of them. So, I mean, it's like going to a restaurant or going to a movie theater. Like, how aware are you when you're walking down a movie theater hallway? How many of those doors go into a movie theater? And then how many doors you're walking past, you're like, what are those doors? Are they storage cabinets? Are there stairs behind them that go up to the projection room? Is that a back door to the alleyway? Like, we just walk by those things because we're not going to use them. They don't register on us. So, like, we don't, as you walk. So, for instance, another thing, I was in an office once, and they were putting in new security doors, and I started laughing about it. My coworker said, what? And I'm like, you could come into this building quite easily and don't have to use any of these security doors. Like, you could come into this office. And they're like, no, you can't. We're locked in. Or everyone's locked out. So I took a broom and pushed one of the foam panels up by the lights, and there's like a 3 or 4 foot space up above the ceiling, and then I poked my broom out over the door, and I'm like, the end of the broom is now in the hallway, and they're like, how did you know that was there? And I'm like, I was curious about what's above these roof panels, these ceiling panels. Like, in their mind, that's just the ceiling. And in their mind, it was solid. Like, they didn't actually realize it was even foam. Yes, your brain sees just enough, the flat surface above your head. You know that you've got a solid ceiling in your home. Most buildings you're in have a solid ceiling. And then when you get into an office room, and it just registers in your mind as a solid ceiling. Like, there is no thought process that takes place when you walk into a room. You don't pick up subtle differences. Like, what are these grid? What are the grids? You know, these metal grids. Are they there for some reason, right? They're there just to hold those panels and those light fixtures in place. And they're actually on metal posts that go up several feet and attach to the concrete ceiling, the actual ceiling. interesting noticing that other people don't notice. And then it's interesting to know that even I don't notice things, despite actively noticing a lot of unusual things. And then, like, how do you notice more? How do I notice more? Like, look at something and think about something. How is that attached? What's behind that? What's the reason for it? Why?